Welcome back. In this video we are going to add the edit feature and also the swipe to edit. So you can see once you swipe over, the background changes and there is this little icon in the background, and once I slide over you can see this edit screen comes up where I can then go ahead and edit entries, and I can go ahead and update this entry. For example, I call this one home 3, and then you can see it creates a new entry. So this is still a bug that we will need to fix later on, but for now you can see we have this edit functionality in here. And in order to add this feature, what we will do is first of all start with creating a new package, and I'm going to call this one utils. So I want to put my utilities in there, and I'm going to paste in the swipe to edit callback. So the swipe to edit callback uses an import here, which we don't have, so it should be changed to EU tutorials dot happy places in my case, so whatever the directories that you have. And we're using this tutorial by Marcin Kitovic, and he created this beautiful little example here on how to create such a callback function. So you can see abstract class swipe to delete callback, and that's exactly what we're going to use. And you can generally see there is a little bit of code that you are going to need, and it's really not that much. And then he creates this feature that you can see here, which creates this delete, so swipe to delete functionality, which we also will implement later on, but I thought it makes sense to start with editing. And you can see he created this very brief or short version of it because it can be pretty cumbersome to add this feature. There are many different ways. Of course, you can use a third-party library and so forth, but I think what he did is pretty nice, and it's a great example of how to get things done in very little code, and we're just going to use that. So if you want to know in detail about what's going on here, you can of course read this article. But other than that, let's just quickly look over it. So he has created this ItemToucher simple callback, and he adds this ItemTouchHelper direction, so you can just say to which direction you want it to react. So in this case, when we swipe towards the right, then this swipe to edit callback will be used. And we can assign an icon, and I created this icon called IC edit white 24dp, and it's just this icon here you can see on the left hand side. In order to create an icon, you can just go ahead and create a new vector asset and then select the clip art, and I selected the edit one, so this one here. All right, and then it creates this thing, this icon, and I called it a little differently. I called it AC edit white 24dp. All right, and then basically what he did is he created some sort of width and height here for the icons. That's one thing. The background that he wants to use, the color that you want to use here, and I'm using this color here, which is this green color that we have in the background. Then he applies that paint, and here he limits the swipe to edit feature to a certain amount. So he says if the view holder is 10, then he sets that to 0. So you can deactivate this functionality for specific items. Then he uses on move, so you could move the whole thing around all together. So this recycle view holder, so you could move it all around. That's something that you can do with this on move, by the way. Then on child draw, that's where it becomes interesting. So what he does here is he just says, okay, set the background to the background color and move things around a little bit. So draw the green edit background, then calculate the position of the edit icon so that it always is at the right spot. So if you want to know even more about this class, then of course check out his website. There you'll find a lot more information about that. All right, so the next thing we need to do is we need to bind this feature, this swipe to edit feature, to our recycler view. So how do we do that? Well, we go to the setup places or happy places recycler view, and in there we create a new edit swipe handler. So vol edit swipe handler, which is going to be a new object of the swipe to edit callback. Now this requires the context. So we need to pass in this, and here I'm going to override the onSwiped functionality. So I want to override the functionality that will be run once we swipe over one of our view holders, which means one of our list elements. All right, so what do I want to do in there? Well, I want to notify my adapter about changes that I want to make. All right, so when I want to do something about an adapter, it makes sense to implement that functionality in the adapter. So let's go over to our adapter here, Happy Places adapter. And in here, I'm going to create a new function. So let me create a new function just underneath here. And I'm going to call this function notify edit item. And I need an activity that will be passed here. So I'm going to call this activity, which will be of type activity. And then I need the position. And I need to type it correctly. So then I need the position, which will be of type integer. And finally, the request code, which will also be of type integer. So let's import activity real quick. So basically, I want to notify our adapter that from this particular list element, I would like to make changes. So let's create an intent, which will use the context, and it will send us to add happy place activity like that. Now I need to import the intent here. And now I can go ahead and put some extra information into that intent. So intent, put extra, and I want to pass in our extra place details. So main activity dot extra place details, and then the list position, so to speak. So here list position. Now, by the way, list is of course the list of our adapter here, the one that is passed when we create this adapter. All right. So then I can now start the activity for result. So activity dot start activity for result, and I need this activity so that I know from which activity I should start the activity for result. So you see, I cannot start this activity from the adapter itself, but the adapter is in our main activity, so it will start this activity for result from the main activity because the adapter is positioned in the main activity. Okay, so then I can go ahead and pass in the intent and the request code. That's why I need the request code when notifying added item. So why do I need the request code in general? Well, because I want to know whether I want to edit the entry or whether I want to do something else with it. Okay, and then finally, I may not forget to call notify item changed, and that one for the position that we're looking at. Why is that? Well, if you make any changes to an adapter or to your recycler view, you want to make sure that your adapter is notified about those changes, and that's exactly what we do here. Otherwise, you will not see any changes until you restart your application, or until, yeah, pretty much you close the application and start it again. All right, and now we can go ahead and go back to our main activity. So over here in this edit swipe handler where we said on swiped. So when we swipe, what we want to do is we want to pretty much call this notify edit item. So I'm creating a new adapter, which will be my RV happy places list adapter as a happy places adapter. Okay, and then we can go ahead and call this adapter.notify edit item function that we just created. So here we pass in our main activity as the activity and the view holder dot adapter position as the position. And then as the request code, add underscore place activity request code. So it's going to send us to the add place activity screen in which we then can edit the activity. So now, of course, the activity that will get this information, which is our add happy place activity, needs to know about what it should change. So either it gets populated with nothing, so either it's a completely new entry that it should make, or it should get the data from another entry and should update it. So these are the two options that we have, right? So let's go ahead and create a variable which will know about it. So private var happy places or place details, so I'm gonna call it, and it will be a happy place model nullable object, which I'm gonna set null. So now, of course, if the intent has some extra information, so when we get to the screen via an intent which has some extra details, then we can of course use that. But otherwise, it will just create a new entry. Okay, so we need to go to our on create here and create a new entry, which I'm gonna call if intent has extra. And here we need to call our extra place details, or use this main activity extra place details, which is this string here. So if the extra information is extra place details, then assign happy places with the details from it. So intent get parsable extra main activity dot extra place details as a happy place model. And of course, at this point, there is only one thing left, and that is to populate all of the details. All right, so we have this update in view where we currently only set on click listeners to all of the different elements here, the ET, date, the TP, add image, and so forth. But what we also need to do is we need to make sure that if our happy places details, so happy place details is not null, then we know that we are editing. Because if it is null, then we know that we are just creating a new entry. But if it's not null, then we know that we actually edit something. So let's set the title of the action bar accordingly. So tier.title is going to be edit happy place. And then we need to set the different variables accordingly. So I'm just going to do that here real quick. So I'm setting the edit text title to the title of the happy place details that we were passed. The same with the description, the date, location, latitude, and longitude. So basically what we did is we now sent the information from whatever element we're currently at, so whatever model object we're currently at, we set that over here. We send it into this screen, and then you can see it's automatically populated all of that. So the title and so forth, the image, and then the text here at the bottom is now not create or save, but it's update. Okay, so that's what we're basically doing here. Now, in order to do the image and the update, we actually need to add those 3 lines here as well. So here we are getting the information as a URI. So we get it from our happy place details.image, which is a string. We parse it to a URI, and then we assign it to the image view place image, which is this image view here. And finally, of course, the text is set to update. So now, of course, there's only one thing left to do, and that is to use this edit swipe handler, because we prepared everything pretty well, but of course we need to assign it here. So edit ItemTouchHelper. So I'm going to call it, and it will be our ItemTouchHelper object where we use our edit swipe handler. And now we can go ahead and use this ItemTouchHelper to attach that to the recycler view. So attach to recycler view, and now we need to pass in the recycler view where we want to attach it to, and that's our RV happy places list. All right, at this point we can test our application and see if it's actually gonna work. All right, there we are. Let's drag it, and as you can see, it works. So we can swipe to the side. It's really good. And now let's see if it actually sends us to the edit activity. You can see here, edit happy place. The text was changed to update. Now let's enter 2 here, and actually 2, 3, so that it's really a different one. And let's update. And as you can see, we have this new entry here. So of course we don't want to create a new entry each time we're updating, but we actually just want to store the changes to the actual object that we started with, right? And I'd say we finalize that in the next video. But overall, just a quick repetition of what we've done. So first of all, we needed to find a good option on how to create such a swipe handler, and luckily there are a bunch of good resources on this. And for example, this article by this developer here, as we've seen, and this is the swipe to edit callback, we can basically use it directly. We just need to make sure that we change the ItemTouchHelper direction here, and I'm just using right, and then of course we can define which editable or drawable we want to have here. In our case, it's the edit one, and then we can just use it. So then we can go ahead and implement that or add that to our main activity. So we need to prepare that swipe handler and have this on swiped functionality in there, where we just say, okay, the adapter which we are using should notify the edit item, which is this function that we call here, or this function that we create here, which basically just calls an intent and notifies our adapter about changes. And here we start the activity for result with this intent. So we basically just start the activity and we expect something to come back, which we then want to, of course, change for that particular position. So our list element needs to know when any changes were made. And then, of course, we may not forget to use this ItemTouchHelper and then attach that to our recycler view. All right, and finally, of course, when we get to the other activity, which is our add happy place activity, we of course need to make sure that we send the right information over, because, well, we did that with this put extra, but here we need to receive it, right? So at this point, we need to receive the information. Did we get any additional information? If so, then fill up our mHappyPlace details variable, which we set up here, which is of our happy place model type. And then we can use that information that was passed to us to fill the whole view with the relevant information. So set the edit title, the description, and so forth. And then that's pretty much it. All right, so I'd say let's finalize this functionality and fix the bugs that we still have in the next video.